I just wrapped up my video where I broke down the September data from Durham region's real estate market. But one thing I didn't have time to really talk about was what's most likely to happen from October until the end of the year and how that will ultimately shape the way our spring real estate market looks in 2026. So if you're thinking of buying or selling a home in Durham region in the next 6 months, this is the one you're going to want to watch. And if you're going to be selling or buying a home, please speak with a professional in your area to get advice specific to your situation. If you'd like to speak with me, there will be a link in the description to book a call, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Now let's jump into what I think is going to happen. Here's a chart showing the year-over-year comparison for active listings, which is the number of homes still for sale at the end of each month. The first thing you notice is that the line for 2025 is the clear standout in the chart. At any point this year, if you compared our market to the same month from any of the previous 10 years, our active listings have been much higher by a wide margin. But after October, you can see that our inventory usually starts to drop off. The only year we've seen an increase in the number of active listings from September to October was in 2023. Outside of that year, we usually start to see our inventory levels drop in October. This is because less people want to list their homes at the end of the year and deal with staging and showings during colder weather and over the holidays. So we see less homes come on the market, and at the same time, we start to see a lot of listings expire or terminate as they realize that it's unlikely that they'll sell before the end of the year. Now let's move to a 10-year chart of our sales each month. It's a fairly similar trend in that we see most of the activity during the spring and late up to summer, and then we see a steep drop-off in sales activity after October. Except on this chart, the line for 2025 is at the bottom of the graph because we've had an extremely low sales volume all year long. What I would take away from this as someone looking to buy a home soon or sell one soon is this. If you're serious about selling a home this year, treat October, maybe the beginning of November, as your last best shot at it. Inventory will start to dip in or after October, but so will sales, and your chances of selling become slimmer, and the likelihood of being able to sell your home for the price you were hoping to get also becomes less likely. The average time it takes to sell a home in September was 29 days, the highest of any September in the last 10 plus years. And that number usually climbs even higher by the end of the year. We also typically see a small dip in prices heading into the winter. If you're considering buying either your first home or your next home, here's something to consider as well. Like I mentioned in my recent market update, you have to be prepared. Just because the market is favoring buyers, that doesn't mean that you're going to be successful if you're not prepared. So have your pre-approval ready. Make sure you have access to the funds for your deposit and down payment. And if you have a home to sell first, get the ball rolling as soon as possible, because regardless of the market conditions, sellers don't want to accept an offer that's conditional on the sale of your property for a long period of time. And if you're trying to get a deal, which December is usually the best time of the year to find a really good opportunity, it's hard to convince a seller to take less on the sale price and to accept a long condition for you to sell your home. So get your ducks in a row first. In November and December, expect to see a lot of listings coming off of the market. It's normal. Fewer homes get listed and many expire or get terminated. But those who remain on the market through December, those are more likely to be people who are motivated to sell their home. So keep an eye not just on new listings, but also on older listings that didn't terminate and on homes that do price reductions. Those are your best shot at getting a good deal. Now let's talk about how the rest of this year sets up next year's spring market. There are always other factors that can impact real estate, so take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but this gives you an idea of what could happen. In the last 3 years, active listings in Durham region dropped by an average of 35.8% from September to December. If we apply that to this year's numbers, we would end December with around 1,804 active listings. Still a much higher December inventory than we've seen at any point in the last decade. Looking at sales historically decline about 36.5% from September to December. Applying that to this year would mean around 449 sales in December. If that happens, we would enter 2026 with around 4 months of inventory. That number sets the tone for our spring market. The spring market is usually the most active time of the year, and typically that means better conditions for sellers. But next year might not follow that pattern. I still think spring will be the busiest part of the year, but busy doesn't always mean strong, and it could be busy, but with more listings than active buyers. Usually we enter the new year with lower inventory because people pull homes off the market for the holidays. That creates a little bit more of a clean slate, and inventory builds slowly through spring. That's what has typically made the spring market stronger. But if we enter 2026 with over 1,800 active listings and 4 months of inventory, that tells me a lot of people aren't selling because they want to, they're selling because they have to. Then add all of the new spring listings from people who waited or terminated in the winter, and we could have a scenario where the spring market next year is very close to a true buyer's market. I've covered this a few times in others' videos, but since 2022, every spring market bump has been smaller than the previous year. And in 2025, our spring market bump was barely noticeable, and entering into 2026 with 4 months of inventory is not setting us up for better results. Could things change? Of course they could. Anything could happen, but it would take significant improvements in the economy and consumer confidence to see a better spring market in 2026. In my opinion, we're likely in for another slower sale year next year. But that doesn't mean that the sky is falling or that home prices will be cut in half. It just means that if you find yourself on the buying or selling side in the future, you should follow the data and make informed decisions that put you first. Make sure you trust who you're working with before you sign long-term contracts, because in this market, if you're held up for 3 to 6 months, that could cost you a lot of money and stress. This market we're experiencing is new territory for a lot of homeowners and agents, so explore your options and make sure that you're working with someone who can actually guide you through the market and give you straight answers to help you and your family make the best decision. If you'd like to speak with me about buying or selling a home in Durham region, or even just get your questions answered about our market, you can use the link in the description to book a call with me at a time that works best for you. Subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if you found this video helpful, and to stay up to date on everything happening in our market. Thanks so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.